Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the insanity defense. So many people think they know what the insanity defense is based on false definitions from fictitious cop television shows, and the definition and actual implementation of the insanity defense from the perspective of these shows exploits the true meaning of the defense and its specific purpose. So a big problem with the insanity defense is many people truly don't know what it is and how it's enacted in court. So once one understands what it is and how it is currently used, the biggest problem with the insanity defense is that the defense itself, being, quote, one of the most controversial legal doctrines, end quote, according to Mental Health America, is outdated. So first, I'm going to talk about what the insanity defense is. Then I'm going to talk about my opinion about the insanity defense and how I believe that the insanity defense should be changed but kept in the court system. And finally, I will address opposing arguments about the insanity defense. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about what it is. So the insanity defense is quite an old doctrine dating back to about 1843 with the M. Naughton court case, according to Legal Information Institute. The M. Naughton rule is the main part of the insanity defense, and it details how it should be run in court. The M. Naughton case was, quote, the first famous legal test for insanity, end quote, according to the Legal Information Institute. And this case involved an Englishman named Daniel M. Naughton who killed the Prime Minister at the time because he believed that he was, quote, conspiring against him. So this rule grew from this case, and the rule itself is outlined by the Legal Information Institute as, quote, creating a presumption of sanity unless the defense proves at the time of committing the act that the accused was laboring under such a defect of reason as to not know the nature and quality of the act, end quote, which basically means that the person who committed the crime at the time was unaware that what they were doing was wrong, and that proves that they are basically mentally insane. So when the case is actually used, it is actually, quote, invoked less than 1% of the time and only successful 25% of the time, according to Noah Berlatsky with Mental Health America. And then the defendant is found not guilty by reason of insanity. Once deemed not guilty by reason of insanity, then the court mandates that they have to go to a mental facility to be rehabilitated. However, oftentimes the person is found guilty and they have to go to jail and no rehabilitation is happening. With this being how the insanity defense is run currently, and how it is enacted after it goes through court, I have my own opinion about the insanity defense, and I'm going to talk about that now. So I believe that the insanity defense should be kept as a legal doctrine and an official plea in the court system. However, I believe that the insanity defense needs to be updated. The first update that the insanity defense needs is that the verdict of the defense needs to be changed. Currently, in court, when the person is found mentally insane, often they plead not guilty by reason of insanity. However, I believe by changing it to guilty by reason of insanity, that would be better than not guilty, because the criminal will be still doing jail time, but they will be being rehabilitated at the same time as their jail time, so they won't be getting off scot-free, but they will be getting better. So changing the verdict will allow these mentally ill people to be rehabilitated in a secure mental facility, rather than either in a basic mental facility where the security is not the same, or in a jail where no rehabilitation is happening. And then the next change I believe that the plea needs is it needs to add a clause which highlights exactly how the mentally ill criminal must be dealt with once they are found guilty. And DJ Jaff actually mentions in his article, quote, their treatment should take place in an inpatient setting on a locked ward if that is what is needed to keep society safe. But if the sentenced patient progresses and the crime isn't too severe, then their treatment could continue on an outpatient basis, end quote. What Jaff describes is an ideal place for a mentally ill defendant to be rehabilitated so they won't pose a threat to society any longer. However, by adding it into the defense, adding this specific clause that they may have to stay in a mental institution that is secure based on the severity of the crime, it still serves as a punishment for these criminals, but in a place where the care can continue. Finally, I would like to address the opposing arguments about the insanity defense. One of the biggest arguments about the insanity defense is that it's not effective, according to Jennifer Bard. So eradicating the defense is something that many people debate whenever the insanity defense is brought up. Many court systems and prosecutors argue that the defense is confusing and juries often have outside influence which clouds their judgment in the trial. Also, according to James McKinley, the insanity defense is extremely hard to provide physical evidence for. This confusion may exist, however, by adding clauses about the specificity of the insanity defense, of how it's supposed to be used, and updating the defense to be guilty rather than not guilty, it could help the jury understand better. And then also, physical evidence can be provided with new technology that we have, including through brain scans and through thorough mental evaluations prior to a trial, according to Brian Doherty. So in conclusion, it is a most debated topic, the insanity defense, and it's important to be informed about the defense and how it works and how it is currently being enacted in courts. It is also important to make sure that it is used the correct way and to be implemented the correct way once it is determined that the person is indeed mentally ill and that was the cause for them committing a crime. That is why the insanity defense is important to have as a plea and needs to be updated to ensure that the defense is the most effective that it can be. With an updated version of the insanity doctrine, the legal system could eradicate, according to Jim Randall, quote, the 15% of mentally ill criminals in jail, end quote, by placing them in a secure mental facility where they can get better. So that is it, but I wanted to ask you my 3 questions. So my first question is, what is your initial perception of the insanity defense prior to my speech? My second question is, do mentally ill criminals deserve such a trial? And finally, my last question is, are all criminals inherently mentally ill? And if so, does the insanity defense have any place if all criminals are inherently mentally ill? Okay, thanks, bye!